Today we're talking about what plants need and how we take care of them. But one thing you might not have known is that plants have a lot in common with people. So we're going to start off talking about what, Zoe?
What people need.
Yes, so do you know something that people need in order to live? Yes, ma'am.
Water.
We need water. If you don't drink enough water, your body doesn't act right, right? You have to drink water for your body to do the things it needs to do. And if you don't get enough water, it's called being dehydrated. Yes, what else do you know that you need for your body to work normally? What do you do in the morning before you come to school? You drink your water and you do what?
Eat breakfast.
Exactly. So you need food. And if you don't get your food, you get really hungry, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have food or water, your body gets tired and it won't do its job.
Yeah, it doesn't want to walk or anything. It just wants to lay down.
Exactly. What else does your body need? You want a hint? Look at me. What?
To breathe.
And we breathe air, right?
Yeah.
So we need air. Do you know the part of the air that we need? What do people need to breathe in? Do you know?
No.
We breathe in through our nose and we breathe oxygen, right? So that's the part of the air, but you don't even need to know oxygen. I was just telling you something like that because you're smart and I thought you might like to know a new vocabulary word. So we need water, food, air, what else? Look up. What's up there? What?
Hair.
Hair's part of our body. You're right. We would not like it if we didn't have hair. What would happen to our head? It would get what?
Really?
Would get cold, right? Because you lose heat through your head and through your toes, right? Well, thinking about that, thinking about your head would get cold. What else would get cold if you didn't have clothes? The whole body, right? So we need clothes to keep us warm. Now, it doesn't feel like it sometimes when it's this hot outside,
I
right?
think I know another
But
thing.
we do need clothes. What?
Skin.
That's part of your body. These things are things that are not part of your body. But yes, we do need our skin. That's part of our body that we need. Look, Zoe, where we are. We're inside, right? Can we live outside in the cold without a roof over our heads? No, our bodies would get way too cold and we would freeze, right? So we need shelter.
Yeah. We need shelter also.
Right.
The shelter helps us stay safe.
Exactly. It keeps us safe from all kinds of weather and it keeps us warm. All right, so let's go over these things that people need, Zoe. Read them for me. Water.
Food. Air. Let's go again.
Clothes and shelter. Very good. Now, we've got to switch gears and think about what plants need, okay? What can you think of that plants need?
Water.
Water, look. That one is the same.
There, you know another thing?
Water. What?
Seeds.
Yes, and I want you to remember that one because that's where plants start from. But on this list, we're just going to talk about things that once you planted it, that they need. Exactly.
They need
Only we're going to call that soil.
soil.
Because that is like the plant's food. Soil is like their food. And the reason I said soil instead of dirt is soil is what gives the plant its nutrients. Do you know what the difference between dirt and soil is? Dirt is what you track in on the bottom of your shoes.
Oh.
And if you track in dirt, your mama says, take those shoes off, right?
So is it like dirt and soil are cousins?
Yes, well, there can actually be the same thing, but dirt is soil where it's not supposed to be. Soil in a cup for plants, that's soil. If you spill it and it gets on the carpet, then it's dirt. So it's actually the same thing. It just means that the soil is where it's not supposed to be when we call it dirt. Yes, ma'am.
I know another thing plants need.
Okay.
Lots of room.
How did you already know that?
Cause I see that plant over there in Scott's room.
You're right, and we're going to call that a fancy word called space. Space. Because if you plant a lot of seeds in one little tiny spot, you know what will happen? They'll all die because they won't have enough space to grow. And they will be fighting each other over nutrients in the soil and over another thing they need. You know what that other thing is they need? What?
Sun.
Exactly. So if they don't have enough space, they will be fighting over the soil and the sun. And the last thing that plants need is what?
Air.
You know my whole lesson, air. Now here's the different part that you might not know. Do you remember what part of the air I told you that we breathe in?
Yeah.
What? Oxygen. And
That's
plants,
a hard word to say.
it is. Plants don't need the oxygen part. They need carbon dioxide. Guess where they get that from? Us. So we breathe in we breathe in oxygen. Guess where that comes from? Plants. Plants give us oxygen and we give them carbon dioxide. So we're kind of partners with plants, right? Okay, can you read me what all plants need?
Water, soil, space, sun, air.
Do you notice any that are the same on both lists?
Water.
Water.
Same. Air.
And then there's not one that looks like the same word, but do you remember which one of these I told you was like the plant's food? Where they get their nutrients?
Soil.
Yes, because we have, and I'm going to put that in parentheses, we eat our food with our mouths, right?
Yes.
Plants don't have mouths. They don't eat like that. They get theirs from the soil. So, there are the 5 things that plants need. Now, we're going to, Zoe, actually plant seeds. And then while we plant the seeds, we're going to talk about what those seeds need to grow and make sure that our plants have everything they need, okay? You stay right where you are, and let's get all of our things to plant our seeds. Now, Zoe, we're planting grass seeds. Yes, can you hold out your hand? Actually, first, you know what? We need a garden tool. Did you bring your garden tools today?
I don't have garden tools.
Yes, you do. Show me that. That's your garden tool. I need you to use your garden tool to dig a hole right in the middle.
Okay.
That's deep enough. Okay, you got it? Okay. That's where we're going to put the grass seeds when we're done. Hold out your hands. Now, you see how tiny those little grass seeds are? You're going to put them right down there in that hole that you dug. You see? Now, use your other hand to wipe off any that didn't get down there. Now, can you use that same one finger to lightly cover up, make sure all the seeds are covered up. We don't want them too deep so that they are still close enough to the top, because if you get them down too deep, they can't get up to the top and sprout. Do you know what sprout means? When the roots and the stems start to grow for the plant. So we want it close to the top so that it can sprout up above the soil. Well, so far we have soil or their food, right? We know they have enough space because we just planted a few seeds, so they've got plenty of space in this cup. Now, do you think they're going to have enough air?
What?
Where do they get their air?
From.
Yes. So are you going to let your plant live with you where it can have air? Okay.
Yeah.
And what else do we need? We need some water. So can you give it a little bit of water? Water it all around until the top of the soil is all wet. Okay, that's good. We don't want it too much or it'll get soaked. And did you know plant seeds can actually drown? We don't want them to drown. Now, you just said that you don't know where you're going to put it at home. What else do we need? We've got enough water, and I need you to water it every single day until it sprouts. That means until you can see it growing out of the soil. And then every other day, okay? Like, skip a day. Okay, so we've got enough water, we've got soil, it's got enough space, it's got enough air because you're gonna let it live with you and it will get your carbon dioxide. What's the other thing it needs? You see? So you said you didn't know where you were gonna keep it. Do you have a window somewhere that might get some sunlight? Or a porch out by your door? Okay, so make sure you put it somewhere where it can get that sunlight, okay? Do you think you can do that? It will soak in. I'm going to read you a story, and while I'm reading you the story, that water will soak into the soil, okay? You ready? Okay, and then after the story, I'm going to ask you the 5 things that plants need. It's grass seeds, so you know what grass looks like. Little tiny blades that will just grow straight up in here, okay? That's for you. Okay, Zoe, can you tell me the title of our story?
Jack's Garden.
Jack's Garden by
Henry Cole.
Henry Cole. Okay, so we just made Zoe's little grass garden. This one is about Jack's garden. This is the garden that Jack planted. Now his garden is way bigger than ours, and it's outside, right?
Yeah.
But his plants need the same things our grass seeds need. Yes, ma'am.
He has a lot of room to grow apples and vegetables.
Yes. Now wait till you see what he's going to grow. It's not even apples or vegetables. Let's see. But you're right. He has a way bigger spot than we do, doesn't he? But look there. What's that?
Water.
A watering can. So do you think he's going to water his? Yes, because they're plants, and we know that plants need water.
He's probably going to go grass like ours.
Is his garden where it can get sunlight? Because it's outside. And I bet it can get carbon dioxide. And it's got enough space. And he has soil in there. And he's going to water it. So he's got everything his garden needs. This is the soil that made up the garden that Jack planted. Look what's in that soil.
Worms.
Yes. Do you think worms are good or bad for gardens?
Bad.
They're good. They give nutrients to the soil. That's what, I told you their soil is like plants' food. They make the food have nutrients in it.
It's like a possum.
It does look like a possum. It's a mole. They make holes in the garden. Not so good. What else do you see?
Why do they make holes in the garden?
Because that's where they like to go, and for it to be big enough for them, they have to have holes.
Are those worms too?
Yes. They're actually larvae. Slugs. There's all kinds of stuff in there. Bless you.
Thank you.
These are the seeds that fell on the soil that made up the garden that Jack planted. He has all his seeds in little envelopes, and he's going to make little signs so he can remember what he's planted where. This is the rain that wet the seeds that fell on the soil that made up the garden that Jack planted. That's good, right? Because they need water. These are the seedlings that sprouted. Do you remember that word? That means when the seeds started to grow, and here are the stems. Guess what's under the soil? The
roots.
Exactly. So these are the seedlings that sprouted with the rain that wet the seeds that fell on the soil that made up the garden that Jack planted. What's in Jack's garden? A bird, a robin. These are the plants that grew from the seedlings that sprouted with the rain that wet the seeds that fell on the soil that made up the garden that Jack planted. Look what all's in this garden now. What?
Is that a snake?
Yes. Do you know what that's called?
Cricket.
It's a praying mantis. Yeah, he's called a praying mantis because his hands always look like he's praying. And we've got a butterfly larva or a caterpillar. What we call him.
Crooked.
Yeah, he does.
See spiders?
Spiders, yeah. These are the buds that formed on the plants that grew from the seedlings that sprouted with the rain, that wet the seeds that fell on the soil, that made up the garden that Jack planted. What do you see now?
Beautiful ladybugs.
Beautiful ladybugs all in that garden. What kind of seeds did Jack plant? What are all these?
Sunflowers.
Flowers, yeah. See, he didn't plant grass or vegetables or apples. He planted flowers. And that's another kind of garden, is a flower garden. These are the flowers that blossomed from the buds that formed on the plants that grew from the seedlings that sprouted with the rain, that wet the seeds that fell on the soil, that made up the garden that Jack planted. Now what's all in his garden? Butterflies,
Bees.
and bugs, and bees. Yes, where are the bees? There it is. Are bees good for flowers? And are flowers good for bees? Yes.
The bees are getting nectar.
Exactly. And they help pollinate flowers so more flowers will grow. These are the insects that sipped on the nectar from the flowers that blossomed from the buds that formed on the plants that grew from the seedlings that sprouted with the rain, that wet the seeds that fell on the soil, that made up the garden that Jack planted. And look, baby birds are hatching in Jack's garden. See?
This is a baby.
A brand new baby bird. These are the birds that chase the insects that sip the nectar from the flowers that blossom from the buds, that formed on the plants, that grew from the seedlings, that sprouted with the rain, that wet the seeds that fell on the soil, that made up the garden that Jack planted. And this is the garden that Jack planted. Look how beautiful. All started with what? What did he plant? Seeds, right? Now, tell me again, just like Jack, Zoe's going to grow some plants, and what are the 5 things that they need?
Water, soil, space, sun, air.
You got it. Can you remember those when you take care of your plant? You got them?
Soil again.
The soil is like the food for the plant. It's this.
Oh,
It's just a
like
fancy
breathing
word
water.
for dirt, right? Now look, I told you all that water would soak in while we were reading the story, and did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, now let me tell you a little trick. If your soil, see how it's really wet down there? You don't want it so wet that your seeds will drown, remember? So when you water it, just make sure once you get the top wet, then you're done watering. You don't want to soak it so much that it will drown the seeds, okay? So remember your 5 things that you need to make sure your plant has. Really, the only one that you need to remember, because it's already got 4 of them built in, it will have air from you breathing in your house. It has space. It has soil. You need to make sure you put it somewhere where it can get sunlight, and then you need to make sure you water it. And yes, you may take this with you to make sure you can water it. This way, when you use this little squirt bottle, you can't get too much water on it at one time. Okay? Thank you, Zoe.
Wait, is this the end of the class?
It's the end of the class.